Okay, hello, welcome. Welcome to my notes talk on Cypher Dynamism, a step towards simpler and more secure queries. My name is Lamont, and I'm a Cypher engineer here at Neo4j. And today I'm going to introduce you to a couple of features that are recently released and a couple of features that are coming up in upcoming releases. So exciting stuff. What stands on the agenda for today is I'm going to give a quick introduction to the syntax, and then I'm going to move on to how we can use this to improve security in our applications, as well as how we can use this in load CSV, how to migrate away from APOC, and a couple of caveats to finish us off. Great, so straight into it. So in the recent release of Neo4j 5.24, we have introduced the setting and removing of node labels dynamically. So as you can see here, we use the set and remove clause that we already have today. And the additional syntax is a $ with some parentheses, which are going to surround an expression. So this kind of expression can be pretty much anything as long as it evaluates to a string or a list of string, and then, it can't be null, and then the same rules apply for labels. It can't be an empty string or contain kind of null Unicode characters. So unfortunately, this is only available for nodes. And this is because, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, at Neo4j, you can only store relationships if they have exactly one type. So this means you can't add or set additional types or remove the already existing type. And then, the final thing I want to mention for this part is that it can be combined with label expressions. So as you can see in my example here, you can have static labels like A and B mixed with the dynamic ones. The other already released feature is setting and removing properties dynamically. So once again, we're using the same set and remove clauses. And what this has here is also the same property syntax we have for dynamically accessing property keys on nodes and relationships. But now we can set and remove them. So once again, needs to just be a string, and otherwise it works exactly the same as set and remove does today. So what's coming up? We all love creating emerging data. So in an upcoming release, we're now going to be able to do this with dynamic labels and dynamic types. So this brings relationships into the picture. So as you can see here, we've got the $ in parentheses again, surrounding our expression, but now you can also do it for relationships. And what would we have without our beloved match? So match has a couple of extra features than the create and merge does. We can also have the all and any keyword. So for those of you who are familiar with our predicate functions, the behavior of all and any might be familiar. You might be aware also there exists none and single, which we have deemed not quite as useful for this case. But the all keyword will supply a conjunction of the labels, or an and. So I want to find all the nodes that contain all of these labels or relationships. And the same with any. But that was the syntax. So let's dive straight into how does this improve security in our applications. So as I'm sure a lot of you have seen, there's this fantastic comic about SQL injection. But I'm not sure if all of you know that little Bobby Tables actually has a cousin, little Robbie Labels. So Robbie Labels, his parents were a big fan of Neo4j, and so his name is this beautiful Cypher Injection string. The school that Robbie goes to, they use string concatenation, which is we all know is a big no-no. So what happens here is that, oh no, Robbie's managed to delete all the students. The school's in disaster. But luckily, there is an already existing solution to this, and that is parameterization. So we can parameterize the student name, and as you can see here, it now cannot break out of the query. This is passed before, and then his name will be set to that entire string. But hang on a minute, what about labels and types or properties? Well, our school, they were so excited that they'd managed to solve their parameterization issue that they're like, oh, we can sell this application to the entire world. I don't actually know the names of all of the schools in the entire world, so I can't store that in my application. But before this feature, we couldn't actually parameterize school names. So string concatenation to the rescue once again. But luckily, as I'm sure you've guessed by now, with this new feature, we are now protected from Cypher Injection with dynamic labels. Great. Moving on, we all love databases, we all love storing data, but we also love loading data. So I'm sure you have met load CSV before. I'm going to walk you through a quick example here. So I have this CSV file. So on the left-hand side, I have all of my node labels. And then followed by that, I have the properties of the key with a little arrow pointing to the value. And with this new feature, you can now actually use pure Cypher to load this data. As you can see here, I split the string just to make it look pretty because I had those colons on all the labels. And then I use the dynamic labels to create this. And I also use dynamic properties to store my properties. So after this query, you can see that I've stored, I have 3 nodes with the 5 dynamic labels, and then all my 10 properties are also stored. Great. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about was APOC. So I think there's a talk today on APOC as well, if you want to hear a bit more about it. But APOC is one of our popular plugins that we use. It stands for Awesome Procedures on Cypher. And a lot of the time, if you wanted to use dynamic labels and types, you were forced to use APOC instead of pure Cypher. So I'll walk you through a couple of examples of how you can now kind of rewrite these procedures into just pure Cypher. So a popular procedure we have is apoc.create.addLabels. So this example is matching all the movie nodes, and then we're just going to simply take the genre property key and we're going to set that as a label on the node, and then we're going to remove that property key from the node. And now, in a nice, cleaner, easier to read way with dynamic labels, we can actually just set that in line. And my final example here with APOC is apoc.cypher.doit. So this procedure here provides a way to run Cypher within Cypher. As you can see, it's another string concatenation example. And we have the label inserted there, and then APOC will actually run the query. But now we can run this all in line, pure Cypher. Well, I do still use APOC for capitalization, but here you go. We can set the node label directly. Caveats, yes. Unfortunately, as with all great things, there are a couple of caveats. So our beautiful planner, they do love static things. So we have dynamic labels and types. When you get to the planner level, the easiest way to plan how to access the data is by knowing the statistics of the labels and types. So if we don't know this at planner level, they must scan everything. So we do still recommend that if you know the label or type statically, then you can help our good planner friends out and continue by using it. Great. That was all I had to discuss about labels and types, but I figured we have some time left over if there's any questions.